When I discovered this, I was a complete atheist. I did not want to hear about God. I did not want to hear about Jesus. I was what I would call a recovering Catholic. And that recovering Catholic wanted nothing to do with learning about Jesus. But when I started making the connection between the true teaching of the Jesus Christ message in the New Testament and in comparison to the eternal now and the pointing to of non-dualism, you can see that the story is right there in his message. This is the story he's telling. This is the story. This is the story that's hidden from you. And I've realized that the thing that I was at odds with was not the actual teaching. The thing that I was at odds with was the church. And when I was able to read this as a form of spirituality, transcendent of the church, transcendent of what other people were telling me this story was about, it completely changed my life in the most profound ways that I can hardly articulate. But I'm going to do my best to articulate it in this episode, so I hope you're going to stick with me here and hang with this little talk. Hello. How's everyone doing tonight? Yes? Awesome. So good to see everybody in here. Nice little crowd joining me. So, yeah, tonight is about Christ Consciousness. That's what we're going to get into that tonight. This is something I wrote about in my new book quite a lot. And it's something that really, really, really affected me in a huge, huge, huge way, and that I've only touched on a little bit in this pointing to that I'm doing on this show here. But tonight I want to give you a little bit more of that, so it might be a little bit long. If it's not rubbing you the right way, then come back and we'll talk about some other stuff next time. If you're not religious, I encourage you to listen anyway, because it's still going to reassure you, put a reassurance in you that I think that you'll find really, really helpful. So, here we go, Christ Consciousness. So, real quick story how this all came to me. When I first wrote my first book, Becoming God, I had made some correlations between multiverse theory and particularly the teachings of the still point, which is this eternal now, this singularity state. And when I started learning about the physics of that, I recognized very quickly that there were correlations between just the few biblical psalms and stories that I was told as a Catholic child. And I thought it was very, very interesting that it would seem like the Bible was kind of pointing to that in some way. And I thought that was very, very mysterious, even though I was a complete atheist. And I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out what I was thinking was not so crazy, that a lot of people had thought that before, and there were a few books about it. And I wrote this down. And then I thought, well, I wonder if this is in other religions too. And I started doing some study, and yes, I found it in Judaism with Kabbalah. I found it in Islam. I found it in all kinds of religions and spiritualities, going all the way back to many, many tribal religions. There's quite a few books about it. So what I'm essentially saying is that all religions are saying the same thing. They're just using different words. And if you're really married to religion, that's a hard thing to hear. But it's the truth. They're all saying the same thing. They're just using different words. And I realized this during the course of writing Becoming God, and it really blew my mind. It didn't blow my mind enough that I wanted to become interested in religion, but it certainly blew my mind from an atheist standpoint. And it was kind of more of a, that's a very curious thing. And after writing the book, I started getting letters from people thanking me for the book or wanting to ask questions to go further. And I kept getting letters about asking me if I had heard of a man named Neville Goddard. And I hadn't heard of him. And I got a second letter about Neville Goddard, and after when I got the second letter, I decided I'd check out Neville and see what this Neville Goddard was about. And Neville was a preacher from the 1930s, 1940s, going through all the way to the 1970s. Not very famous, not very well known, but he had a very evangelical vibe. And I was turned off from Neville almost instantly. In the first few minutes of listening to Neville, I could hardly take it. It was just instant throwback, flashback to being in Catholic school, and I was just couldn't listen to it. So I put him away, and then flash forward, I don't know, a few months, maybe a year later, I got another letter from somebody who said she had a dream about me and Neville Goddard, and when she woke up, she felt compelled to write me a letter and tell me about Neville Goddard. So being into all the spooky stuff that I'm into, I thought, okay, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention this time. And if you're interested, Neville has hundreds of recordings. He's dead now. He passed away. But he has hundreds of recordings on the internet. You can find them on YouTube for free. There's lots of them. But when I started listening to Neville, there was instantly this realization that what I was listening to was some of the most profound teaching I had ever heard in my life. And he was teaching a message in the Bible that I had never saw before. He wasn't saying anything different. He was just teaching it from a different lens. He was teaching it from the lens that was not historical, and not a lens that was caught in linear time, but a lens from the here and now, a lens from the eternal present moment. That was where he was teaching it from. And when he was teaching it from the pulpit of the here and now, it had such a transcendent message on me that it just completely blew me away. There's many nights of listening to Neville, and I made this a daily practice of listening to Neville, that I would just break down in tears over his message. That had that much of a profound effect on me. And I think that partly that was because even though I called myself an atheist, maybe there was a very small part of me still holding out for God, because let's face it, the idea of non-dualism is a very crazy sounding notion. If you really decide that you're going to embody this, the realization that you are the center of the universe, that you are everything, you are the all. It's a little bit crazy, right? So I think what Neville did was showed me that this insane idea is printed right there in the holiest book in the world. Not only is it in the holiest book in the world, but with the man we consider the holiest man who ever lived, this is exactly what he's talking about when you know how to read it like that. And what I mean by that is that Neville taught that in order to really understand what Jesus is talking about and what that scripture is about, is the realization, man's realization of the eternal present moment, and that the eternal present moment itself is God. And having that realization is what we call Christ Consciousness. So in order to understand how to read the Bible, we read the lines in red, and we read it from the first person singular, meaning we read the words of Jesus as if Jesus is a spirit that lives inside of our heart and is speaking directly to us. The story is not about a man who lived a long time ago in history. It's a story about a spirit who lives in you and is talking directly to you. This is why it's a holy book. This is why it's a miraculous book. Now, I'm not saying that Jesus is the way, that this is the only way. As I talk about many times, there are many ways. There are many paths to the one. Jesus is a miraculous teacher. The words in this scripture are unlike anything I've ever read. But I can tell you that you can find this same story. This story of the eternal now can be found in all religions, all of it. It's right there in Kabbalah. Kabbalah is all about finding the singularity. It's all about reducing yourself, refining the self, until you're able to find the eternal present moment. Lord Krishna, this is what he's talking about. It's about finding the present moment. It's about getting in touch with the here and now and embodying all of the archetypes of God in you And with that force, you rule in heaven. All that force of those archetypes, you're able to rule in the earth the way that God wanted you to. It's the same message in Buddha. The story of Buddha he points to the present moment. It's all about giving up attachments to earthly things and realizing the eternal present moment of here and now. So all of these religions are saying this. It's my hope that by me telling you the story of the here and now through the lens of Christianity, you will be able to apply this method of perspective to whatever religion you have. And I guarantee you're going to find it. You're going to find it, and it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to have the same transcendent experience. Okay? So that's enough pretense for all of this. We'll just get into it, okay? So the reason that this seems to be caught in mystery and is so difficult to find in this message is because the eternal now is transcendent of words. All of the words are caught in time, right? What we're pointing to is transcendent of words. It's transcendent of time. It's transcendent of place. It's just the eternal present moment that you're occupying right now. Through your eyes, that's heaven. That's what it is. And you're always in it. And it's a matter of perspective, whether or not you're going to see heaven or you're going to see hell. It's all in you. It's all in your eyes and your ability to see the truth. The reason it's heaven is because there's only the illusion of death. The eternal present moment lives forever, and you live forever in it. Even if you have the experience of dying in life, it's only the experience of dying to which you'll be reborn in heaven, in the here and now of the present moment. Are you guys with me? This is why it's perfect. It's already perfect. And if you're not liking something, then just change the channel. Channel's inside of you. It's your channel. You're the one driving. Is it a glass half empty or a glass half full? It's your choice. So, the story of the Buddha, there's a very, very interesting symbiotic relationship between Buddha and Christ. The Buddha is pointing to the eternal now and describing how to get to the eternal now by surrendering your attachments. That's what we were talking about in the last episode. We have to let go of all these things that anchor us in the dream. And the hardest one of those attachments to let go of in the dream is our personal dreams within the dream. That's the hardest one to let go, because that dream is anchored in linear time, which is an illusion. So once you can let go of these attachments, you'll find yourself awake in the here and now, in the present moment, which is a miracle. You know, if you're sitting here going, oh, well, here I am, I'm in the present moment, my life still sucks, here I am, this is great, Ford, what's so awesome about this? It's because you're not present. Your inability to see presence is clouded with veils of trauma that you've got to work out. But I can assure you that if you work on these things, you will be able to find the present moment as it really is. And it is miraculous. It will change your life forever. Forever, you cannot even conceive of being anything other than a perfect person. It will become the number one most important thing to you. It will be sustaining this feeling. And nothing else will matter. It'll all drop away. That's how amazing this is when you truly see the here and now. And that's what this story is about. The story is about showing you how to see this. You're already in it. There's nothing to look for. You're already standing smack in the middle of it. Clouded with all this bullshit that you call your story. All this pain, all this suffering, all this illusion of time. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You've been, what I'm going to talk about today with this Christian story is the story of the Gnostics. This is not necessarily a Gnostic story that I'm going to tell. I'm not really a subscriber of the Gnostic story, but what I'm going to tell you is early Christian stories is what we're talking about. We're going to get into the Nag Hammadi texts, which are texts that were found in clay jars, sealed for centuries. These texts were written only 100 years after the time of Jesus, so these are the most pure versions of these stories that we know. And what's really, really interesting is that Constantine, along with members of what would be established as the Catholic Church, decided what texts, which Gospels would be left in the Bible and which ones would be removed. And interestingly, the texts that they decided to remove from the Bible are the most empowering. They are the texts that truly, truly point to the here and now. And in my opinion, these texts are the key to understanding the rest of it, which oddly enough, which is why these texts were removed. And I'm speaking generally of mostly of the Gospel of Thomas, which is just a completely amazing read if you can just read that from the present moment that I talk about a lot of times on this show. It will blow your mind. Blow your mind. The Gospel of Thomas. It's free. Just go on the internet. It's only about 100 lines. I think 107 lines or something. And yeah, you can read it in an hour. It's not that big of a deal. But don't read it in an hour. Like, meditate on these lines. They're deep. They're very, very, very deep. And so what I'm saying is the churches we know that the modern church has been corrupted by the adversary. It's an inversion of what the truth is, because it teaches you that God is on the outside of you. Anytime someone points to something on the outside, especially something caught in time, that's how you know it's false. God is only within. It's the only place you can find it. It's never out there. And what's the first thing that happens when we walk into a church? We see a man hanging on a cross, right? He's beat up. He's got wounds, blood dripping everywhere. It's very grotesque, right? What is the underlying symbol of that? There is your God. There he is. We nailed him up to that wall. We beat him up. But he was the purest version of you. He was the one that was perfect. In fact, he was so perfect you could never even hope to be that perfect. But if you were that perfect, we killed him and we hung him on this wall. Let's all pray to him and worship him. Do you see how dark that is? Do you see how sick that is? Do you see the adversarial energy in that? That has nothing to do with the message of Christ. We'll get into what that really means. We'll get into what the crucifixion really means. The crucifixion is your crucifixion. It's the crucifixion of your gnosis. It's the crucifixion of your infinite wisdom of knowing who and what you are, for the sole purpose of having a life and a dream. So I'm going to read a couple of things for you. Bear with me. I still haven't kind of got my voice back. Okay, this is from Thomas, and he says, this is on false idols. And Jesus said, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom of heaven is in the sky, then the birds will precede you. If they say to you, he is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. That's Thomas quote 3. This is Matthew 24:23. If anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ. Look, here is the Christ. Or there he is. Do not believe it. Do not believe it. Why? Because he's in here. Jesus Christ is a gnosis. It's a state of being. It's a state of mind. And when you can hold that state of mind, it's heaven forever. heaven forever. This is from Psalm 82:6. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Jesus Christ is pointing directly to the here and now. Everything that he teaches is pointing directly to this center moment. Because only this moment exists. Anything outside of this present moment is a fabrication of the mind. Anything in the future is here. Anything in the past is here. There's only what's happening. And you go, Ford, this sucks. This is not heaven. I'm just looking around my life. This is not heaven. Is it? Are you alive and breathing? Out of this entire possible way of being, out of the entire cosmos, you're alive and breathing, listening to me now through an electronic signal, and you're piloting a human body, this machine of all of this possibility. You can do all of these amazing things. Is that not the most amazing experience possible? I mean, how could it be better? Right? Start there with a gratitude there, and watch how miraculously your whole life changes. Because Christ teaches this very clearly. It's about your state of being. It's about your vibration. However you're being is the way. Buddha teaches us how to find the here and now, but Christ teaches us the way of the here and now. He teaches you how to be one with the here and now. It's through the teachings of Christ we know how to sustain the here and now and not get caught in the dream, which we will inevitably get caught in the dream. But since we know we're going to get caught in the dream, it's how to be in the dream so you don't get caught up too deeply. Jesus is the Son of God. That's what he said he was, right? As in, God manifest on earth in the present moment. And if you dare have the faith of a mustard seed, just the slightest faith, you will see what he's talking about. For those with ears to hear, let them hear. He says that repeatedly throughout the Bible. Do you have ears to hear? Has this show prepared your ears and your eyes for this message? I hope so. This is the message. The present moment is all that exists. And if you have just the slightest bit of faith to believe that, to know that it will all work out, whatever it is, it will all work out. Because it's just a dream. It's just a dream, and it becomes what you think. However you feel about it, however you think about it, that's what it's going to become more of. And when you can think beautiful things about it and hold love in your heart about it, it has no choice but to unfold those loving things right back to you. That's heaven. That's heaven. And you're God. It gives you exactly what you want. The entire universe is here to serve you when you can find the present moment. And that's what this is about. So to find this in yourself, if you want to read along yourself, just open up the New Testament and you'll find that most Bibles will print the words of Jesus in red ink. This is called the lines in red. And I say you can read the Bible as it is if you want to, but if you just read the lines in red, it's a little bit easier to pick up on what I'm putting down. And as you read this voice, just know, I want you to hear the voice of Jesus in your mind, right? And picture the spirit of Jesus, an archetype of mind, this spirit, this embodying spirit of complete remembering who you are. And this spirit lives in your heart forever. And this spirit is speaking directly to you, not speaking to the world. It's speaking directly to you about you. That's what those words are about. And when you read it and you see the truth of what I'm saying in those words, it's going to blow your mind. And you're going to have a spiritual experience. Guaranteed. And if you can have the faith to believe it, I mean, why not? It's right there, the holiest book in the world. If you can actually have the faith to believe it, it will become a heaven on earth for you. It will. I promise you it will. It's that easy. It's that easy, which is why they make it so difficult to see. So this story of Thomas is really, really interesting. They edit out a lot of what Thomas is about. And if you understand the story of Thomas, it was after Christ was crucified. Mary had come out to say that Christ had awoken on this day of Easter, and said he had come back to life. And wanted the apostles to come see. So all the apostles came and they said, it's true, he's really come back to life. But Thomas, he didn't believe it. He was a doubter. He didn't believe it. And when he got there, he still didn't believe it. He didn't believe it was Jesus, even though there was something very familiar there. And Jesus consoled in Thomas and grabbed Thomas's hand and pulled his hand inside the wound that was caused by Icarus that cut Jesus' abdomen open. And when doubting Thomas stuck his hand in the wound, that's when he knew that Jesus had come back to life. It's a very, very important key part of the story is that doubting Thomas is the one that needed to know. And this is a metaphor for you. It's not to go into Christ blindly. If you go into it blindly believing, it's very easy to be deceived. So read it yourself. It's important for you to discover this for yourself and not be told what it is. Don't just take my word for it. Discover it for yourself. So what's interesting about the story of Thomas is after Jesus had awoken and had a little party with everybody and told them that he was back and it was awesome, then only Jesus and Thomas walked for 30 days alone. Only Thomas was chosen to walk with Jesus because only Thomas was the doubter. And for 30 days, Jesus divulged all of his secret teachings to Thomas. Now, it's really interesting that that's not in the Bible, right? Like, it's almost like the Bible is telling this incredible story, and right at the climax of the story, it just ends. But when we find the Nag Hammadi text, which tells the complete story, there's an additional 30 days with Thomas walking with Jesus, unto which he bestows all of his secret knowledge to him. And when Thomas comes back, finally Jesus ascends into the heavens. And when Thomas comes back, he's asked by all of the apostles. They all say to him, well, what did he say to you? Like, what did he tell you? And what Thomas said to him is he says, Thomas said, if I tell you one of the things in which he told me, you will pick up stones to stone me, and a fire will come out of the stones and burn you up. I'll just let that sink in. So why did they edit that story out? It's a pretty profound story, especially if you read these lines from Thomas. It's all about personal development. It's all about awakening to the present moment. All of it, every single line that's what it's about. What this story is teaching Thomas is that it's all inside of you. The kingdom of heaven is inside of you. It's not outside of you. And that when you have the right eyes, when you've managed to take down all of these veils by cleansing yourself, purifying yourself, you become redeemed. And this Redeemer is able to see the world in a different way, is able to see the heaven perpetually all the time. And when you're in a state of seeing the world as heaven all the time, you just become love. How could you be anything else other than love? when you see the world that way. It's the story of the illusion of time, that all is mental. There is no world out there. Jesus says, I am in the world, but I am not of the world. He's not from the dream. He's from the Spirit of God here and now, just as you are. So a couple of things that Jesus said. He says, this is from Mark, and Jesus said, nothing goes into the man and pollutes him. It's what comes out of him. So if your life is not good, that's what he's saying, that if you're not enjoying life, nothing from the outside is at fault for that. You're the one that's at fault for that. Everything that's around you is what comes out of you. It's a reflection of who you've become. And when you can have redeemed yourself, refined yourself to be a better person, a more integral person, a more loving person, a more compassionate person, then the world has no choice but to reflect that beautiful place back to you. It's the only way it can be. And this is what he's teaching. He says, and Jesus said, the good man brings good things out of his good heart when he speaks, and an evil man brings evil things out of his heart when he speaks. Everyone will give an account every careless word they have spoken. For by your words you will be rewarded, and by your words you will be condemned. Abracadabra. This is what we talk about all the time on here. Watch what you speak. Abracadabra. I create what I speak. This is what he's talking about. I'll read it again. A good man brings good things out of his good heart when he speaks. Be good, be pure here. An evil man will bring evil things out of his heart when he speaks. But everyone will give an account for every careless word they have spoken. For by your words you will be rewarded, and by your words you will be condemned. It's you. It's all a reflection of you. It's all about you. Here's a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. Man is made by his belief, and as he believes, so he is. And I'll go, this is one more thing that Jesus said that I thought was interesting regarding this. Jesus said, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And what he's talking about here is just to realize that the way that you perceive the world, that is the light of the world. By changing the way you see things, it will literally become something new. It will transform into something new. And if you have nothing to be grateful for, if you have nothing but darkness in your world, then how wonderful is that darkness? Find what's beautiful about it. Find what is great in it. Find what wonderful lessons there are in it. Because when you can focus on even the good in the darkest of places, the world has no choice but to open up love to you. Because it's merely a reflection of who you've become. And this is it. This is about focusing your mind, realizing who you are. This is John 1:1. You think it'd be pretty important. John 1:1. It's about as early as it gets. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is why the lines in red are the living Word. Jesus is known as the living one. He's known as the great revealer, because you can read the New Testament and get one story out of it if you're caught in time. But if you can remove time and read it from the first person singular as if it's happening right now to you, it reveals a deeper mystery, there's a deeper gnosis there, a deeper realization that transcends words, because the words are caught in time. So you kind of have to read what's between the lines. And a lot of times it'll point directly to it. There's no missing it, like I'm reading to you now. But all is mental. It's all mental. There isn't anything that isn't the mind. It's all mental. It's all mental projection. And each of us are living in our own reality. There is no linear time. There's only the here and now, forever. And that anything that we think about that exists somewhere in the history of the world, or somewhere in the future ideas of the world, they live only in the mind, because everything lives only in the mind. Even the reality around you right now only lives in the mind. We may perceive, it may appear as though eyes are receiving information from an outside world, and hands are feeling something from an outside world. But the truth of it is, all of this is being processed in the mind. There isn't one thing you know that is not processed outside of the mind. It's all inside here. Therefore, everything is mental, both literally and figuratively. The mind is all there is. Jesus, the historical figure, is part of the illusion. But Jesus, the archetype, the one who is anointed with the here and now, lives forever. This is why Jesus is the living one. It's the Word itself that's full of life and lives forever. It's the Word that's eternal, because this message is eternal. This is why it's a holy book. This message is to wake you up. It's to remind you that you are Jesus. It's you. The story is you. This is your story. It's your hero's journey of self-realization. When you say what Jesus would do, I don't know, what would you do? Step up to the plate now that you know who you are. This is why Jesus is the center of all time. When we think about linear time, we think about BC as in before Jesus, right? Before Christ. And we think about AD, right? Post-death, right? So they put Jesus at the center of time. So when you're in your dream and you're using dates and times, all these times are relative to the story of Jesus, who sits outside of time, even in the story. His entire life sits outside of time. It's right there in our time, the story and the truth of the eternal now of the anointed one who is you. These are an allegory of our own human development. It's like a cheat code to life when you understand it. That's why it's so important, and it's why it's so laced in mystery. This is why it's a secret. Because it's as simple as ask and you shall receive. That's how simple it is. Just ask, because it is you. Everything is you. Do you think if God asks for something, God gets it? Of course. And so do you. Because you and the Father are one. And when you ask, you will get it. Even the crappy stuff. Even the crappy stuff. And the Buddha said, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. The Buddha. They're all saying the same thing. Here it is in Psalm 46. Be still and know that ye are God. Your preacher didn't read that one to you, did he? or she. It's right there. It's in the Bible. Psalm 46. Be still and know that ye are God. Here it is again in Luke 17, 20, 21. The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. This is why they don't want you to read the book yourself. They want you to go to church and have someone read it for you, because they prey on your laziness. They prey on you keeping this a secret from yourself. Read it for yourself. Don't listen to me. Have doubts. It's right there. It's been there the whole time. Giving you permission to love yourself unconditionally as you are. Completely forgiving of what life appears to be. And basking in the glory and the love of the here and now, the present moment. Because that's all that exists. And it's perfect. It's perfectly as you asked for it. Isn't this fun? You guys like this? Give me a heart if you're loving this. So, what is the story of the sacrifice then? What is that all about? What's the story of the crucifixion? What does that all mean? The crucifixion is your story. First of all, it's to realize that God died for you. That God died for you. That's who God died for. God died from all-knowing awareness, all-knowing presence, the being that always is, eternally here now, died from the gnosis of knowing who and what God is, and temporarily forgot everything, forgot it all, and dove into this world, this dream, to awaken as you, blind, forgotten who he is, all for the purposes of having the experience of your life as it really is, without knowing that he's God. Just seeing it through your eyes, living your moment. And God has the faith, there's faith in you that you're going to realize this and save him from dying to himself. There's faith that you're going to realize this truth. That God died and fell into this dream world and was nailed to your body. The Spirit of God was nailed to you. This is your crucifixion. Nailed to this body, stuck in a 3D world of time, not having a clue of what to do about it. And we suffer. Oh, we suffer, don't we? We all suffer like the Christ, right? Bleeding, been beaten. And anytime we want to say who we think we really are, we get beaten a little bit more, don't we? It's you. It's you. And you're going to be crucified forever until you awaken to the truth. Until you awaken to the realization that you are it. You are he. He is you. That the Holy Spirit, the Father, and the Son are all one thing, one being, working in concert. There is no separation. There's just this game of hide and seek forever that you play with yourself. The Garden of Eden is here now. When you're present and you're here now, the Garden of Eden is right here. This is where it is. In fact, if you study the Zohar, I would even say it tells you that it's not Adam and Eve that were casted out of the Garden of Eden. It was God who was casted out. And Adam and Eve remained in the Garden of Eden without God. And it turned to hell because of their shame and their guilt of not knowing who and what they are. They forgot. The other meaning of the cross is that the cross is the separation between absolute truth and relative truth. That's what that means. Absolute truth is the absolute truth of the present moment, that nobody, I don't care how smart you think you are, I don't care how much of a theologian you think you are, nobody can argue with the truth that the present moment is all we have. It's all we ever have. That nothing exists outside of the present moment except for what is being experienced in the present moment through the mind, because everything is mental, everything, with the appearance of being external. This is a hard problem that science can't work around. No matter what they say, they can't work around this problem. It's one of many. Here's a message from Paul in Corinthians 2:13. He says, "Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is within you?" Here's another line from Genesis. "And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." Pineal. The pineal gland? Is it referring to the pineal gland? I know that when I tap that pineal gland, it's as though I'm in touch with heaven directly. Corinthians 3:16, "Do you not know that ye are the God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" See, you don't have to take my word for it. It's right there. It's all right there. It's been there the whole time. That's the most frustrating part. You were like, God, it's been there the whole time. You know, it's even in the name Jesus Christ. This awareness that I'm pointing to is even in the name Jesus Christ, right? So we say that Jesus, which is Yeshua, as people would say, Yeshua, and Yeshua means to be of the nature of God, and let's say that Yeshua is the son of Jehovah, which really stands for I am. Jehovah, the word Jehovah comes from the Greek tetragrammaton, which is to describe the first person beingness. So in Exodus, when Moses is on Mount Sinai and he's being told by God to go down and tell the Egyptians that you'll be slaves no more. It's time to just say, no, I'm not going to be a slave anymore. That's what he's telling Moses. And Moses is like, well, look, I can go down there and tell my boss that I'm not going to be a slave anymore, but who should I tell him is telling me I should go down there and tell him this? And God said, you tell him that I am sent you. For that is my name forever and ever. I am. It's an interesting thing to say, right? He said his name is I am. That is my name forever and ever. Forever. Now that comes from the tetragrammaton YHWH, Yahweh, we say, right? YHWH, which really means the four elements that brought being or creation into being. So Y is Yod, H is He, which, yes, I should say that Yod is fire. That's what it stands for, fire. He, He, stands for the earth. And Vow, which is the W. There is no W in the Hebrew language, so it's two V's together, which represents the feminine. So the Vow is air. And because it's two V's, it's a feminine, so it's to express the He, which is after the W, which is water. So YHWH stands for fire, earth, air, and water. That's what it represents, which is to represent the first person of beingness. It's to say, so YHWH means from the beginning. Essentially, that's what it means, from the beginning. And it's to describe the first person of beingness. So it's to describe consciousness in the beginning. So consciousness itself, awareness itself, pre-existence of anything. It's just the eternal consciousness that is, which we say, I am. I am. But even those words are caught in time. So if you go around saying, I am, you're really calling yourself something lower than God, because the words are caught in time. That's why the Jews would refuse to put the name of God in the Bible. But they did want to point to it very clearly, and they did. They pointed very clearly what God is in the Bible. So we've got Jesus Christ, right? And we know what God is, right? God is the first person beingness. The word Christ means the anointed one, or the one who is aware that I am God. Christ means to be the nature of God. It means to be love, anointed with a spiritual connection. It means awakened with the spirit and embodiment of love. That's what Christ means. Awakened with the spirit and embodiment of love. Well, when you're present to the here and now, and you're seeing the world as it really is, the heaven that it really is, then you become full of love. I talk about it all the time on this show. When you find that unconditional love for yourself and forgiveness of everything, you just radiate out love. It just pours out of you. And you can't help it. You can't help it. You become love. You become Christ. I am love. Because love and God are synonymous. They're the same thing. God is love. It's one and the same thing. You know, what's really interesting is that before he was Jesus Christ, he was Jesus of Nazareth, right? Jesus of Nazareth. You know what the word Nazareth means? The word Nazareth means the man who was separated from the world. The man who was lost, essentially, is what they're saying. The man who was lost. So the man who was lost and separated from the world became the anointed one, Jesus Christ, the anointed one, the one who realizes that he is God himself, the one who realizes that he is love. It's because it's in you. You guys into this? Happy Easter, everybody. I really wanted to do something cool for Easter, so that's what this is. I'll get through a couple more things here, and then I'll read your questions. So drop them in that question section I put in there. I got a lot of you guys in there chatting it up. I love it. I love it. I love it. Wow, we got 60 people on there? Holy cow. Thank you very much. Happy Easter, everybody. It's really, really awesome. So, you know, it's really interesting to think about the name of God that way, as the I am, because that is his name, forever and forever. It's printed right there in the holiest book in the world. So if anybody tells you different, don't let them. You know, incidentally, the word religion is Latin for the word religare, which means to bind and hold back as one would with wheat. That's what religion is. That's what it means, to bind you and hold you back. This message is transcendent of religion. You don't need religion. Tithe unto yourself and have compassion for everyone you meet. Be filled with love and compassion, and then you've done your connection to be with love and to be with God. Be in love. Be with love. Have compassionate love for things and everyone else. And whenever you're feeling that feeling, you're embodying the Christ. That's it. You are it. It's timeless. And it's impenetrable to anything that's negative. So it's really interesting. If you go and take a look at the 10 Commandments holding this identity, and incidentally, that's what I'm talking about on this show. If you're confused about what I'm talking about when I say the dream world or the Christ or the here and now, what I'm talking about is a shift of identity. You are currently identified with whatever your name is. You're identified with your body, and you say, oh, this is who I am. I'm this body, and I'm John or Sue or Kelly or whatever my name is, right? And this is who I am, and I look in the mirror, and that's me. And that's the only identity you've ever had. You're holding that identity. And what I'm saying is that whole identity is a facade. It's completely fake. I break it down all the time on this show. But we don't have to get into that tonight. But it's to realize that that identity is very, very flimsy. And what you can do instead is you can identify with the person that you thought you were, who I call the person in the dream. It's the ego who's in the dream, right? But you can also shift your identity. You could take a step back from that egoic state. You can take a step back from the ego who's operating this avatar, and just be the one who's watching. Just be the one who's watching what's going on, watching this dream. And that is to shift your identity to the identity of the Father. That's it. And that identity of the Father is here forever. Let me repeat that again. That identity of the Father is here forever. And the way that identity feels when you identify with it, that feeling too, that feeling of it being you, also lives forever. It never, ever dies. You go on forever. Forever. I can't understate the word forever enough. And that's the freedom. That's where your freedom is. And is in that knowing that the present moment is all we ever have, and it just eternally dances into something new. It's always becoming something new. And it shifts and moves and dances and becomes exactly what we expect it to be. And if we can have the faith to see that, it'll become whatever you want it to be. But the problem is most of us don't have the faith, right? Something will happen. We'll create something in the dream that says, no, you got to come into this dream and be a part of this dream. And we don't have faith in ourselves. We lose faith in ourselves at that point. We go, okay, I'm going to work now. Okay, dear, I'm going to go mow the lawn now. I'm going to do whatever this thing is that I have to do that's keeping me from being present. That's it. That's the faith. The faith to say, no, this is my time. I'm being present right now. I'm being loved right now. This is the state I'm holding. But that takes kahuna balls, I gotta tell you. It takes a lot of manifesting small things to really, really see that, to really, really see how important that is. And to really be able to say no. To be able to renounce the world and say, no more. I'm not a part of it anymore. It's a very scary step. I talked about that last week. So I hope you check that out. Awesome. So anyway, getting back to the 10 Commandments and the name I Am. It's pretty interesting when you start reading the 10 Commandments from the perspective of I Am. So the very first commandment, so you think it's probably pretty important, right? It's the first commandment. I mean, pay attention, right? Even if you have AD&D, you gotta pay attention to the first commandment, right? So the first commandment is, I am thy Lord thy God. I am thy Lord thy God. So thy, by the way, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this kind of way of using the words, thy represents ours. It means ours. So I am our I am our Lord, our God. Because you're a triune God. You're the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all working as one. And this is to remind you that I am identity. I am. Where you place your consciousness, that is God. That is it. And it's so important that the second commandment reinforces the first one. It says, thou shalt not have other gods before me. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Before you. Before the I Am. It is primo. No matter where they point. If they point here, there's your God. Over there is your God. Or back then was your God. Don't believe it. I just read it to you, right in the Bible. Don't believe it. The kingdom of God is within you. Because you're it. You are the center. And if you can just believe that, the entire light of the world will open up to you. Here's Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is in the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Here's Isaiah 44:6. Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. Mind-blowing, right? Now, these aren't hidden texts. This is right from the Bible. That's Isaiah 44:6. It's been telling you this the whole time, the entire time. The 10 Commandments, think about it like this. The 10 Commandments are a note from your awake self sent to the, this note is passed to the you who's asleep to remind you that the person who's awake is God, and that he should never take any other God in its place. It's to remember that the person reading the note is God forever and forever. The person in the first person beingness reading these messages is the I am of consciousness, is it not? It's you. It's you. Boy, I love all of these comments. You guys are so awesome. So like I was saying before, you're in the Garden of Eden now. You're still here, yet you never left. The Garden of Eden isn't somewhere else. You're standing right in the middle of the Garden of Eden. And if it doesn't look like the Garden of Eden, it's because you have polluted it with all of the negative thoughts and all of that stuff. As soon as you get the thoughts under control, this will become a beautiful garden. And that starts with integrity too. Why don't you, as Jordan Peterson says, clean your room. Start there. Start small. Start by realizing that you live in the Garden of Eden. Make it that way. Take control of your life. Take the action step so that spirit can see, oh, we're trying to make this place perfect. Well, let me just show you how perfect we can make it. You got to treat reality as your bitch, kind of a thing. It works for you. Always remember it works for you, and have that conviction. And with that conviction, it'll happen, and it will blow your mind. And each time you'll have more and more conviction, more and more and more. Time is not linear. There's no history. There's no future. There's only the here and now, with the illusion of time being created from the here and now, shooting out like rays of possibility. If you can stay present, you can see that very clearly, very, very clearly from the present moment. It didn't exist. Only here and now exists. It's the only thing that ever exists. Jesus Christ, the historical figure, can't save you. The one that's hanging on the wall in the church can't save you. The words will save you. Jesus' words will save you when you embody them as your own. When you truly walk the walk and utter the words of Jesus, that's when he saves you. It won't happen 1 minute before them. And in that moment is the unconditional permission to completely love yourself. It's about learning to love yourself. It's that moment. Completely loving yourself. It's okay. You're perfect. The way you are is exactly the way you're supposed to be. This is exactly the dream that God wanted to have, which is why you're here, having it. Oftentimes it's to see if we can break free of it through faith. How dark can we get it before we can remember who we really are? The entire story of Jesus is about you. It's your story. It's a hero's journey, and this hero's journey is your story. It's your hero's journey. Think about it metaphorically, and this is what it's talking about. You are the Savior you've been looking for. It's you. Here's a quote from Buddha. He says, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." Here it is again in the Bhagavad Gita. "The Lord, O Arjuna, dwells in the heart of every being, and he by his delusive power spins round all beings set as if in a machine." Here's again in Thomas. "Whomever finds himself is superior to the world." It's Thomas. Here's John 14:2. "And Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." What do you think he's talking about there? That eternal I am. That you have to know what that means. You have to know that eternal I am of who you are in order for that to happen. Here's a really good one. This is from the Nag Hammadi text. This is from the Bruce Codex. Quote, "He is an incomprehensible one, but it is he who comprehends all, and nothing exists outside of him, but all exists within him. And he is boundary to them all, as he encloses them all, and they are all within him. There is no place outside of him. There is no place outside of him. All is mental. All is mental." We live in the mind of God, with the illusion of an earth caught in time, with historical figures and an unfolding future. Where we live is a dream within a dream, within a dream, within a dream, forever. And the beautiful thing is, it's forever. And we're never not dreaming. Why? Well, we have to be somewhere. Otherwise, it's just a blank canvas, right? It's kind of boring. Believe me, I've been there. It's quite boring. Which is why God dreams. God dreams to get away from that. Here's the real heaven when you master it. This is the real heaven. I'm going to answer some questions here in a second, and before I do that, I want to read you something that you guys, most of you, if you have any kind of Christian upbringing, you definitely know this that I'm about to say. But I want you to embody this prayer from this new perspective. Okay, I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to center yourself for just a moment. Okay, and I want you to fully get in touch with who you really are. The real you. This is Jesus talking to you. This is the Spirit of Jesus in your heart speaking directly to you. And he says, I want you to pray like this. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory of heaven, forever and forever. Amen. That's Matthew 6:9. It has a completely different meaning now, doesn't it? Completely different meaning. It's giving you permission to love yourself and play in this infinite playground called life. This is a gift from God. This is the gift for you. And all Spirit wants from you is to play and have a good time. Because as children, we enter the kingdom of heaven. Not as adults, only as children, when we learn how to play. You can't get to heaven when you die. You can't get there. You can only get to heaven while you're alive. It's the only way to get to heaven, is while you're alive and you've learned and mastered the ability to play as a child. And in that playing, you will create heaven on earth for yourself. And I am living proof of this testimony. I was a complete atheist. I did not believe in any of this stuff. And when I started applying these things, started living the way, and getting into the root of these teachings, it completely changed my life, and now my life is a walking heaven on earth. It doesn't mean that negative things don't come about sometimes and frustrate me, but there's a new lens through which I view that frustration, and I just handle it with ease. It's if there is frustration, it's the frustration of wanting to win, to game. It's like, it's just playing, but I'm playing a game. It's playing. I play. And that's what I want you to do. And that's what the Christ wants you to do. Play. Because this is a gift. And it's because we take things so serious, we're turning a gift into a living hell. Love yourself. Love the people around you with forgiveness and compassion. And make the most of every single day. You only have to live for one day. It's just one day. Start with your mantras in the morning like I do. You wake up in the morning and find some things to be grateful for. And say out loud with your mouth how grateful you are to be alive and healthy and aware. How grateful you are to be going from one dream into a brand new dream of today. That's where we are, the dream of today. And you're grateful for your abundance and your health and your family and your friends and all of your good fortune. And you're so sure this good fortune is going to continue because you know that you are just in another dream, the dream of today, and that you're about to put your feet on the floor, but it just feels like a floor. But it's not really a floor. It's just another dream, the dream of today. And your job is just to play and make the most of it. There is no dream of tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There's only today. There is no tomorrow because tomorrow is in the future. There is no tomorrow. That is the power of belief. That is the power of belief. You believe tomorrow exists so much, tomorrow is going to manifest itself as today. But make no mistake, it's only today, forever, and forever, and forever. Well, let's get in here, you guys. Boy, this is crazy. Look how awesome you are. There's so many things in here. Okay, so I've been through this for an hour and 20 minutes. So for those of you sticking with me, I'm going to go through some of these questions. Thank you very, very, very much. And by the way, everything I've talked about tonight is an excerpt from my new book, The Devil's in the Details, which is primarily about this subject and esoteric wisdom as well. So thank you for those of you who have purchased it already. I appreciate it. But again, this is not about selling books. I'm doing this not for that. Thank you for everything. Okay, so Saxon says, question, how do you navigate jealousy? What's the way to use it to transmute or transcend it? Love you. Good question, Saxon. I think that with jealousy, the trick is just recognizing it in you. Just recognizing it in you. And just by recognizing it, notice what you're doing to yourself. That you're yearning for something that you do not have. You're focusing on the lack of what you do not have. So what I do when these negative things happen, like we talk about, this very fragile world that we're in right now. Everyone walks on eggshells because we don't want to quote unquote trigger people. God forbid someone gets triggered. But what I do, my generation, Gen X, you get triggered, you just kind of like brush it off because that's just life, But what I've learned to do is when I feel that moment of being triggered, whether it be jealousy or whether it be rage or whatever, I use the trigger to become aware about it. So just when you feel the jealousy, try to train yourself into saying, there you are. There's the jealous version of me. What are we jealous about? What part of this situation am I feeling lack in? Simply because someone else has something else that I do not possess. Can I simply just be grateful for my friend's success and grateful for the things that they've achieved? Because in the state of gratitude for your friend's success and grateful for how abundant the universe is, I'm very sure you'll have no problem attracting that abundance into your personal life. So transmute the feeling of jealousy into the feeling of abundance. You do that with awareness. So you use the trigger to go, Mr. Jealousy, I see you. Or Miss Jealousy, there you are. There you are. Well, let me fix this right now with my thoughts. Let me immediately cancel out that energy and replace it with energy of abundance. I hope that helps out. Wendy says, we are all God's children. God is a frequency and vibration within. We are quantum diamond mind. We are definitely a frequency and vibration within, that's for sure. You could say that we're a toroid. That's what we really are. And we are a bridge between the metaphysical world and the physical world. And it comes forth from our heart. That's where it comes from. That spark at the center of your heart that causes it to beat, that spark is the magnetic energy of this toroid. And that spark creates your entire world. That's the dream. That's the source of your dream. The heart is very, very important in this. And if you're into physics and you want to understand what I mean in a scientific physics way, I highly recommend you follow a guy named Dan Winter. Dan Winter will talk all about the importance of coherence with the heart and how this heart muscle and the toroidal field around the heart muscle, which creates the spark. And he talks all about how coherence is very, very important to the purity of this spark, and how more importantly, how through compassion we build up the ability to hold on to a sort of memory of Christ consciousness beyond death. So, in other words, through the action of being good and compassionate and loving, through the embodiment of being Christ, stores a very specific kind of energy on the fabric of space-time that you are permanently connected to through your DNA, and that that sense of being lives forever. And the more loving you are in this Christ consciousness field, he can show mathematically using physics that you are able to hold on to this field through new lives, through reincarnation. And this is why we have people who are just very, very holy. They just have that thing. They always depict these holy figures with a halo around their head. What they're trying to depict is this radiance that you have when you embody love, when you embody this Christ consciousness. Everyone around you can feel it. I mean, I don't even know how to tell you that. I should say the thing that I was chasing my entire life in the music business, that feeling of fame or whatever it is, the more I embody the Christ consciousness, it exudes from me automatically. People are just drawn to me automatically. And they don't know why. I can't tell you how often it happens to me when I go out that a stranger will completely unload all of this very personal stuff to me, and then usually catch themselves 5 minutes into the talk, and they'll be like, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I've never told anybody this. I don't even know why I'm talking to you. That kind of stuff happens to me all the time. And I know it's just because I'm getting closer to this state of holding this state often. And, this is a refinement that goes on forever. I'm nowhere near an expert at this or a guru at this. I'm just a person having an experience that's changed my life, and I'm merely pointing and hoping a few of you can kind of catch on to that. Well, we got lots of new people here tonight. It's so exciting to see you guys. I'm with you. I'm not so much with the Enki thing, but Thoth, the teachings of Thoth are very, very, very important. I think everyone should read the Emerald Tablets. It's just a very, very important read that everyone should read. That's all I can say. And you can read it in an afternoon. It's no big deal. And I'll tell you what the teachings of Thoth are. It's like a grandfather explaining the meaning of life to a child, is what it's like. Taking very, 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 very complicated ideas, and it's expressed almost like a parable. And it's a very beautiful read, and I highly recommend you reading the Emerald Tablets. Yeshua says fourth dimensional thinking. Yes, exactly. I would say fifth dimensional, really. Everyone's trying to get to 5D. Listen, the 5D isn't a thing. 5D, when we think about 5D, you're thinking about 5Ds coming in the future. You're thinking about this thing that's coming in the future to save me, right? You're stuck in ego again. You're stuck in time. 5D is the here and now. It's to be transcendent of time, which is the fourth dimension, right? We live in a 3D world. Fourth dimension is time. To be in 5D means you've transcended time. So when I'm standing here in the present moment, free of time, I've transcended time. This is the 5D. 5D is right here, right now, and anybody can have it. It's not coming to save you. You have to take it. It's a boon. You got to grab that boon yourself. And you can. Yes, Michelle, Ho'oponopono is a perfect prayer for daily practice. Forgiveness is a huge part of this. If you want to be like Christ, you got to forgive. And you're not forgiving for the sake of the people that you're forgiving. It has nothing to do with them. Whatever it is that they did to you because it's a lesson that you needed to learn for yourself. Now, recognize that they came here and they played a part specifically to teach you this lesson, and forgive them and let it go, because you're storing that animosity in your body, and you can feel it as tension. You can literally feel it. That's where we store all those latent anxieties and animosities, is in our body. So use Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian method of forgiveness. It's called Ho'oponopono, and it simply goes like this. I use a glass of water with it. This is not everybody's way of doing it, but I find this very, very effective. But I pour a glass of water, and I hold it in my hands, like I'm doing now, And I think of the person that I want to forgive, right? I'm holding it. And I hold that person's image in my mind, and I think about, I try to dredge up the emotional attachment to it. Maybe it doesn't feel so good. And the prayer is, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. And I say that 3 times, and then I take a sip of water. And I let it go. It's gone. It's gone. And you're going to find that those thoughts about that person or that situation will stop haunting you. It'll just slip away. You might have to do that ritual a couple of times, but maybe by the 3rd time of doing that ritual, the person will just leave your whole system. It'll be gone. But this is all part of the renunciation. This is all part of the letting go. It's the detaching from the material world out there. And you're purifying yourself. You're alchemizing yourself into this pure state of absolute bliss in the present moment, not attached to any outcome other than the beauty of how awesome it is right here, right now. All right. Well, I love how you guys are all talking about stuff. It's beautiful. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate you, my beautiful playmates. So Sunday night is good for everybody. We'll be doing this every Sunday night. I know I released a video last night and it said that I was doing these on Saturday nights, but I changed my mind. So the Sunday night is what we've been doing for the last little time here. So Sunday nights, 11 o'clock Eastern time, so New York time if you're looking at me from somewhere else in the world. And I look forward to meeting you all in the chat room. You guys are so beautiful and amazing, and it's a favorite part of my week, so thank you very, very much. And have a beautiful, beautiful evening and a beautiful week. And that's about it. I love you guys. Have a good night. Oh, by the way, this music is on my Phi Tribe channel. I hope you guys check it out over there. And thanks again. Love you guys very much. Bye-bye.